So I got a twisted one for you. My ex-husband is about to marry my stepmother. Yeah, you got that right.
I was the only child in my family. My parents, or more specifically my father, always describe my birth as a miracle, as I was born even after my mother was told she could not conceive, so I always enjoyed the love and warmth that they offered me since I was a baby. Our family was perfect, happy, and wealthy. My dad was the businessman, and it was something our family had been doing for generations. So money was never an issue. For us, at least. But, events took a pretty sad turn when my mother died unexpectedly. It was nothing extraordinary, just a fever that turned fatal. She did not take it seriously, and it only escalated. She was a hypertensive patient, and it only added to it. Anyways, even after years, her death, my dad did not remarry and took care of me all alone. He was always an affectionate and loving father, so I considered myself blessed. But because of all that, I was so protected that I failed to deal with the evil world or understand somebody's bad intentions. So as I grew up, there were tons of incidences that occurred to me. And all because of my naive and innocent mind, my dad remarried a woman when I was in high school. It was mostly because I wanted him to have a partner and always insisted that he gets married. I'd pictured a perfect family in my mind and considered my stepmother as a piece that would complete our incomplete puzzle set. But how wrong I was. My stepmother belonged to a humble background and was oddly ambitious. Maybe that's the reason she married my father without an inch of hesitation. Even after the marriage, I had heard about her lover so many times, but it turns out she ditched him for money. She was not a cheater, as she cut off all contact with him, so I never made an effort to tell my dad about it. Anyways, our life was uneventful. My dad was always busy working, and when he wasn't, he would be sitting in his study, reading books about spirituality and religious stuff, and I never knew how much they fascinated him until years later. Anywho, my stepmother did not put in an effort to build a relationship with me. We hardly spoke, and she kept herself to her circle of friends, and I was still all alone by myself, and then I started university. Maybe because of the love I always craved, I started to get attached to a guy I met there, and that was it. Mike. He approached me for whatever reason, but his constant attention and efforts in trying to woo me won me over. I fell head over heels in love with him. Mike confessed to me first, and soon we started dating. Mike was studying at our university on a scholarship, so I was aware of his poor background, but it never mattered to me. However, after the first official meeting my dad had with him, this was his biggest concern. He warned me about his intentions, maybe a dad's instinct, but I was too, focused by him to care about it. So despite my father's concerns, I did not break our relationship apart. There were a lot of suspicious acts on Mike's part, yes, with him demanding that I help him secure a job at my dad's and always crying about his expenses. So I was the one who took care of all of it. Things were going really fast between us, and Mike soon proposed to me. Though I was apprehensive at first, Mike was eager to get it done as soon as possible. So only after a month, he wanted to finalize our wedding. It all happened when suddenly he barged into our house unannounced, and my dad was shocked nonetheless. He was disheveled and in bad shape, and his eyes were red, and the first thing he said was that his mother was dying, and he wanted us to get married fast because of it. Well, I was confused, because when we started dating, he told me that, he had no family, and suddenly there's a mother. I questioned him about it, and he told me that they had some kind of fight, so he said that. But now that she had only, a few days left to live, presumably, he wanted to make her happy. The whole situation left me dumbfounded, but again, I trusted him a bit too much to question his words, and so we got married. Mike's behavior took a 180 the very next day, and he suddenly became dominant and started to insult me if I irritated him even in the slightest. Now, he was holding a big position in my father's company too, and I ignored his harsh behavior in the beginning, but one day he came home drunk and started a fight with me. He started to break things when I tried to stop him, and it was probably in that fit of fury that he landed a hard slap across my face and shoved me away, making me fall down with a loud thud. Maybe I should have taken it as a sign and left him the very day, but when the next day he came with an apology to me and called it a drunken mistake, I let it go, and that was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever done. He would often get aggressive with me after that, and I just wanted to make our marriage work, so I mostly endured it. But everything has a limit, and in my case, the dam broke when he did something that I could never even think of. So, I was home alone, and it was my birthday, and I had texted Mike to come back so we could at least celebrate it together, but he straight up refused, and I was really upset, and lately I was getting sick of his stupid acts, so rather than crying in self-pity, I decided to get dressed up, dolled up, and go out. That's when I received a text from him saying that he was sorry and even sent me the hotel information where he reserved a table for me and my friends so I could celebrate with them. My mood got better. It was better than nothing, or that's what I thought, but he proved me to be wrong. So it happened that I had left the house, and while I was at my friend's house to pick her up, I realized I did not have my phone with me. We decided just to go get it real quick after picking up our third friend too. After we all got together, I drove back to my house, but I had no idea what was waiting for me there. I was completely clueless when we entered the house, and there was my husband on the couch all cozy with a woman. I was frozen for a few moments, but then I lashed out. Marching towards him, I slapped him across the face as hard as I could muster. Without sparing them another glance, I walked towards the bedroom and started to throw all of his outfits on the floor. I yelled at him to pick his clothing up and leave. Mike tried talking to me, but I called security, and my friend tried to calm me down when he was pushed out by the security. After that, I went back to my dad's house and cut off all contact with him. No matter how many times he showed up, we ignored him. So I filed for divorce and got it finalized soon after. Here, I thought that I got rid of the trash, but again, I was proven to be wrong. Anyways, before that, I was too busy dealing with my dad's sudden decision to leave everything. 6 months after my divorce, my dad quit the business. My dad and stepmother started having lots of fights because, well, Dad, he distanced himself. I saw her lashing out at servants, and every day she threw a new tantrum, so it was not a surprise when she went crazy when Father announced that he was going to become a monk and move to China. It came as no shock for me, too. I respected his decision. His health wasn't the best, and I wanted him to have no stress and do what he wanted. My stepmother and he got divorced. She was given a good amount of money to live a comfortable life while my dad passed on his fortune to me. My stepmother, of course, was not very happy about it, but she had no idea how much money it was. She tried to play smart and apparently kept good ties with me, even when she was planning bad things under the veil. So, what happened was that it was my friend's birthday, and we went out shopping. We had shopped for 2 hours and got hungry, so we decided to go to a nearby restaurant. But what I saw there left me speechless. My ex-husband and my stepmother were sitting together having a romantic dinner. I walked towards them, my hand shaking when I demanded that she explain the situation, and she just shrugged and replied that they got married. Well, I saw red after that. I picked up the wine glass and splashed it on her face, and Mike stood up trying to stop me, but I was too angry to even care about it. I cursed at them and yelled loudly about the dirty things that they've been doing, but were embarrassed nonetheless. My friends dragged me away, but I knew I was not done yet. So I called Jessie and demanded that she never meets me again. I made calls at the office and immediately fired him from there too. My stepmother knew she had nothing in front of me, so I was sure that Mike must be unaware of that. He was a greedy man, and there was no other explanation for why he would marry a psychopathic woman like her. I had no idea how to break the news to my dad. He rarely contacts me after becoming a monk, so I decided not to tell him all, but rather just to visit in person to explain the situation. I was making plans to meet him when I got a call from the temple my dad was staying at. I was told that my father passed away there because of heart failure. I could not believe it. The news soon spread like wildfire, and my dad's body was sent back and his funeral was arranged. What made me so mad was Jessie not even helping me with anything, but rather posting stuff about her new marriage. I knew I was going to teach that woman a lesson for being like that, so at my father's funeral, I made sure all relatives were aware of her dirty doings. The moment Mike and she walked in, everybody was glaring at her and talked so badly about her. I stood there enjoying the situation. Jessie tried talking to me, but I yelled at her face to get lost. She was crying and leaving the funeral hall after everybody called her names and kicked them out. I was going to implement the plan I had in mind after making sure my dad had his fair share. After my dad's funeral, I contacted my dad's lawyer and got to know the exact amount of money, and the fortune I had. Guys, you're not gonna believe this one. It was $50 million. 20 million of it going to his charity, of course. There was no mention of my stepmother in the will at all, and Jessie and I had initially thought that she might have got some common shares, but even I did not know she had nothing at all except the money that she had already been given. So what I decided was to announce it in front of everyone. I decided to do a charity event and invite everybody there. I knew Jessie and Mike would show up too, and that was very much needed for my plan to succeed. I'll update you soon enough. Update number 1. Hey guys, the event was arranged for 2 months after my dad's death. The attendees had no idea how much the donation was going to be, and I was not going to reveal the whole amount at all. I watched people entering the venue, and I greeted them all and waited for my targets to show up. It was taking quite a while, and I had thought that maybe they were not going to come, but I was proven wrong when I saw Jessie going hand in hand with Mike. The man had no shame at all, but I knew I was going to make sure that they would not even be able to meet someone's eyes after this. I ignored them and started the event. Initially, I just talked about my father, his business, his good deeds, and slowly I started talking about the fortune and how he made me the sole owner of it. I noticed Mike turning towards Jessie and asking her something with clear distress, but I continued. I announced a large sum of money to be donated and made a statement that I wouldn't be donating regularly as part of my dad's will. The event ended and the guests started leaving. Mike stayed behind with Jessie, and he walked towards me and started threatening to sue me for stripping Jessie of her share of money. I started laughing and told him the woman was given nothing. I could see Mike being dumbfounded. Jessie and he started to argue as she kept lying and making excuses about it. I don't know, an idea came across my mind. I intervened. I invited them to a family get-together and asked them to negotiate things with me, and they stupidly agreed, considering it an opportunity to get me, something from me. They had no idea I was going to expose her and Mike that day. I made preparations and made sure to invite people who knew me and Mike and even Jessie. I was going to let everybody know what they did, so even our university friends were invited. Nobody had an idea of what was going to happen. The event started, and they weren't there, but I knew it was a golden opportunity that they would not miss no matter what, and I was proven correct. The moment they entered, I welcomed them, brought them into the center, and got everyone's attention. I asked them to introduce themselves and that it was the first below. They both just introduced themselves as a couple, but everybody was looking at Jessie with confusion. Even if Mike and I had married in a very private setting, everybody knew Jessie as my stepmother. Seeing the age difference between the two chatters had already started. Jessie could pass for his mother. I just decided to add some fuel to the fire and step forward, making sure to announce that Jessie is not just remarried. The man she married is actually my ex-husband. Half of the family was aware of it, but my classmates, business partners, and a lot of other people had simply no idea that my stepmother married my ex. Not allowing the whispers to settle, I announced that I had a few things to say. Everyone was anticipating what I had to say, and I began by exposing how my stepmother behaved around me. From always bad-mouthing me to the workers to spending my days, my dad's money recklessly. Her past lover, her tales of infidelity, her gold-digging behavior, and her ditching my dad's words for her and Jesse tried to call me a liar. But the next thing, was standing proof of her wrongdoing. My attention turned towards Mike, and I started to explain how he was a greedy dog. I knew one thing Mike was most insecure about was his background, so I decided to start with that. I told everybody that he was poor. And not just poor, I said his dad was a criminal with a background, and his mom left him as a kid, and he also had a history of bullying other people. And he lied to me about his mom getting married. Everybody looked at him with shock, and he always presented himself as somebody noble, and this was his reality. Mike was horrified, and he tried walking towards me and slapping me, but some of the men stopped him, pushed him away, and I laughed, saying that this was the perfect example of how he treated me in our marriage too. His abuse and infidelity were the reasons for our divorce. Nobody dared to say a word when I showed them a CCTV recording of the day he was found with the woman. And some were far from it when he hit me. He could not deny it and just made a run to save himself. I let him go. He would get caught sooner or later, I knew it, and I had a bigger plan to ruin him. It was already a big defeat for him to get nothing out of my dad's money. And the day after I exposed him, I got to know that Mike had recently joined a company, but the news of him becoming an abuser, cheater, and fraudster had traveled there. He was forced to resign and had no job anymore. He came to my office to beg me. I sat there as he begged on his knees to forgive him, but of course I was not going to do that. He made me go through hell, and I was going to make sure he experienced it too. I was waiting, collecting evidence, not just against him, but against that woman too. Jessie got sick, and I heard about her treatments were being very expensive. Tons of money were needed for her. But again, that was none of my concern either. I learned that she was using that money Dad left for her briskly, and I was sure that she was going to be broke very, very soon. And yes, I was proven once again to be correct. Mike and Jessie sold the apartment they bought and moved into a different location, much cheaper and dirtier than what they originally belonged to. They had also initiated divorce, and Mike was aggravated to learn that Jessie had no shares of the property or whatever money my father left. He called the woman a manipulator and an evil person, and went around saying that she tricked him. Now I was going to use my last card. Update number 2. It was a Sunday morning when I got the call from the lawyers, and they requested an urgent meeting. I got dressed and immediately left, and I had the slightest idea of what was going on. But I did not think much, and when I reached there, I noticed their serious expressions, and they were forming reports. I was a bit lost and wasn't sure what it was about, and that's when they dropped the bomb on me. It was my dad's previous health reports and the investigation about the medication he was given for years. It was found out that Jessie was the reason for his sickness. She'd been giving him fake medicine for years, and it's only deteriorated his health. I was shocked and started to cry. She was the reason behind my dad's death, and even though he was always generous and kind towards women, the initial hatred I had for her only quadrupled after that, and I was going to make sure that she went to prison. Just a few days later, I filed a case against the both of them. Not just Mike, but also Jessie. I pressed charges against Mike for abuse, physical assault, fraud, while against her for attempted murder and stealing some money from father. She had married him with the sole purpose of leeching off of his money. The court hearings began, and I presented all the evidence. Neither Mike nor Jessica could present good enough evidence for the innocence. So before the last hearing, both paid me visits, and Mike started with how much he regrets divorcing me, as he loved me so. And, it was just all because he was being stupid. I laughed at his poor excuse, but I was not done. I picked up the glass of juice and spilled it on him, muttering sorry. He sat there, mad, but he no longer had the power or courage to hurt me. So I stood up and walked out, leaving him the same way that he would leave me after insulting me all those years. The past hatred I had was still ignoring the fire of revenge in my heart. My next move was to meet Jessie and let her sit there embarrassed while I asked her if I should give money to charity or her sorry case. I informed her that no matter what, she tried killing my father, and for that she was going to burn in hell. I'll make sure of that. Jessie started to attack me like a mad woman. Everybody at the cafe was just looking at us, terrified by her, but her behavior only added another thing to the list of reasons why she was a dangerous criminal. After that, I cut them off completely. I didn't even show up at the last hearing, my representation did. They informed me that I won the case, and they were convicted. The fit that they threw, the cursing, the yelling, all felt like a calming music to my ears. There was no longer my problem. That's what I've thought, but again, I was proven wrong. Update number 3. A big scandal popped up just a few days after the court hearing, a corruption case. I promised to do a fair investigation, and so the investigation began, and slowly, all recordings were pulled out, and what left me baffled was that Mike had been illegally transferring money to his secret accounts and had kept so much profit to himself that was given for charity or projects. Initially, Mike was given a few years sentencing, but when I got my hands on this evidence, I filed another case against him almost immediately. I wasn't going to show him any mercy. Mike became the talk of the town. His dirty deeds were exposed to everybody. Nothing was left to hide. The university's fellows and relatives were all throwing shade at him. Nobody wanted him out of jail. His fake parents' story to marry me was deception, and I was making sure he would not be getting out of jail any sooner and, well, with whatever he did. I wasn't shocked when I got to know that Mike and Jessie had previously had a big physical fight, and both had harmed each other quite severely. The pile of their sins kept getting bigger, and I finally felt a huge relief when they got fined and sentenced. I'd started to, well, get my life back again. From building my dad's business to getting my own life on track. It was hard, and when the unwanted visitors made it harder, I just disposed of them easily. One day, Jessie's sister came to see me. More like intruding on my office building, I should say, and just like her mad sister, started smashing expensive decor and destroying precious company materials. She barged into a meeting and I was leading it, and as she was walking towards me, she pulled a knife. I was so shocked I could barely react. She injured me seriously, and she was caught by the cops almost like right away. And later, another big plan of theirs got exposed. Mike and Jessie had been planning it all along, that they would get rid of my dad first, and then he would marry her, as Jessie had said that she would get a good fortune. But Mike had no idea that it was a lie. And the woman had nothing to begin with, and it all backfired, and his life was destroyed because of his greed. The two of them are going to rot in jail for a long time, surely. While I finally took a breath of relief, I focused on my career and eventually found a good man to marry. He was a businessman, and he even helped me expand my business. I made sure to keep my promise to my father, and I made regular donations while also making sure to spoil myself with the money. My ex-husband and stepmother met their end, and I got to live life like they could have dreamt of.
So it looks like those two ended up going to jail, and as OP said, I hope they rot in jail for life. Let me know your thoughts about this story, guys. This one had so much attached drama to it. I was about to go crazy narrating it. I mean, the twists and turns of this one was ridiculous. Let me know exactly what you would have done if you were in OP's position. And guys, thank you for joining me on today's video. My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you guys are new to the channel and you like these sort of videos, the simplest way for daily stories is to press that subscribe button. I do this every single day, like I said, so stop by tomorrow, see what we're up to. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.